Okay, hi everyone. I'm not sure, we had a little bit of technical difficulty there, so I'm just going to start over. This is Amanda Ewing, and thanks for joining us for the second OEA Top 4 at 4 webinar, where we are obviously still working out a few kinks. In the room today is my fellow lobbyist, Ivy Riggs, with the Legislative and Political Organizing Center, Doug Folks, Communications Specialist, and our Executive Director of OEA, David Duvall. On the list for our brief that we will continue to try to keep to 10 minutes or less webinar, we'll talk first about payroll deduction legislation, second about the AP US history bills, third about education funding, and fourth about developments in the world of TLE and A through F, and some encouraging news we have on that front. So I will jump right in, and we will talk about starting off on a bad note, I suppose, House Bill 1749, just about half an hour ago, passed off of the full House of Representatives. This is really disappointing and very big news, because I don't believe a bill to revoke your right to payroll deduct your dues to OEA has made it this far in many, many years. So the vote was 59-39, which means that we did have a good chunk of Republican lawmakers who stood with us on this vote. That was not easy for them to do. The pressure for everyone to vote yes on this bill was enormous. The Speaker Hickman and the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs worked very hard to pass this bill, and they're going to continue to work very hard to now pass it as it moves to the Senate committee and the full Senate. Just as I definitely think that if you're able to send a quick note of thank you via Facebook or email or phone call to any member of the House caucus, the Democratic caucus supported us on this vote, as well as Republican Representatives Christian, Dank, Hardin, Joyner, Kennedy, Murdoch, Pfeiffer, Thompson, Wallace, and Wood. So if any of those are your representative, or any of the Democratic representatives are yours, then I hope you'll send them a thank you for standing strong. But most importantly, I gotta say, I was disappointed to hear several representatives tell me this afternoon that they didn't receive any contact from our folks on this issue, that they didn't hear from any of our members. And so we are going to have to overwhelm them with contact in the Senate if we are going to kill this bill. And just to remind you, if you're not sure, House Bill 1749 only targets educators' right to payroll deduct, and only targets your right to payroll deduct to OEA. It is limited to education employees who payroll deduct to an association that collectively bargains. So there is no clear way to state that this is a bill that is coming after OEA. We don't have a lot of allies in the fight because it's only coming after us, and so we sure need to stand up strong and contact our senators. In fact, I would say start immediately. The full Senate, I think we need to just immediately start contacting all senators about defeating House Bill 1749. So, Ivy, why don't you tell us about the AP US history update? Okay, so, excuse me, the House Bill 1380 by Representative Fisher from Yukon passed out of the House Committee on Monday, House Education Committee, 11-4. So pretty strong support in committee for that. We are in the midst of drafting a letter that would be from history teachers, and we would love as many history teachers to sign off on that in support of defeating this bill. It's not just AP US history that we're talking about. It would It would affect all history, so we're not just talking about AP. The actual bill prohibits the State Department from spending any money on AP U.S. history until the standards are reverted back to the 14-15 school year. So they don't like the tone of the new standards for AP. It's going to put our kids at a disadvantage to take that AP test. There have been some lawmakers that have requested an Attorney General opinion regarding whether AP is even legal. Under the repeal of Common Core last year, it said, House Bill 3399 said, no standards may be adopted that were not constructed in Oklahoma. So they think that there might be a conflict there. We are looking at the possibility of a lobby day to get as many history teachers here as possible to let your legislators know that you do not want them mandating what you get to teach to your children. All right, topic number 3, moving right along, is education funding. So the Board of Equalization is the body that determines how much money officially our legislature has to appropriate each fiscal year, and when they met yesterday, they said that we are $611 million down from last year's appropriation. That is over twice what they anticipated back in December that we would end up right now. Yesterday was the final certification, so these are the final numbers, and now we know this is the hole that's going to have to be filled this session to even have a standstill budget. That's an 8.5% cut from the budget we had last session. Speaker of the House said actually in response to that meeting that everyone should expect a budget cut, even education. Now, we are going to fight to keep every dollar Common Education has and even increase that, of course. And we'll see kind of how that plays out as we get closer to April when the budget decisions are actually being made. Now, there's some good news, though, on the funding front. When the Education Budget Committee, or the Budget Subcommittee, met on Tuesday, met yesterday, they passed House Bill 1682, which is Representative Denny's bill that you've heard a lot about. It's the multi-year funding solution that would ultimately, over the course of about 10 or 12 years, put an additional $600 million a year into Common Education's budget. That's what we call the off-the-top funding, where we'll have money when the budget comes in. $60 million a year will go directly to education before they decide what they want to do with the rest of the revenue, and then the next year we'll get that 60 and another 60. So in exchange for this funding, also over the course of the next 10 years, it would add 5 days to the school calendar. I talked about this last week some, so I won't belabor the point, but as you probably know, we have not agreed to any additional school days, and we will certainly fight to ensure that any funding increase means a salary increase for education professionals. So
they're just going to have to get over that.
But, and for some reason, people's phones aren't on mute on the call, so if you don't mind putting your phone on mute, that would be great. Thanks. Okay, so then other good news in education support professional pay raise passed out of that same committee this week. Representative Kennedy's bill for a 6.25% pay increase to ESPs passed out of the Education A and B subcommittee. Now, in reality, we don't necessarily need a bill for a pay increase. That's sort of all a part of the negotiations around the education budget. That's different than needing for teachers to increase the actual minimum salary schedule that is in statute. But regardless, good news that we've got legislators voting in favor of increases in education funding and pay, and we'll continue to keep you apprised of how this plays out, since we are $611 million down this year. Okay, and the last topic that we're going to talk about is kind of, as we're going to try to end on a positive note. There is some likely relief coming for both A through F and TLE, the teacher evaluation. we've met with the new leadership in the State Department, or her staff, and Superintendent Hoffmeister's staff, and the U.S. Department of Education is offering states a one-year hold harmless year this year as far as the waiver goes. So you're not at risk of losing the waiver for the No Child Left Behind waiver if you kind of pause A through F and the teacher evaluation using test scores for that. So on Monday, House Bill 1823 by Scott Martin in Norman passed out of the House Education Committee to delay A through F for 1 year while studies are being done. And Senate Bill 706 by Senator Ford from Bartlesville is up next week in committee to do the same thing for the TLE. So we expect to hear something in tomorrow's TLE commission on that. Also, Superintendent Hoffmeister is saying publicly that she plans to address with the TLE Commission tomorrow and bring before the State Board of Education meeting next week a plan to remove SOOs and SLOs, so student outcome objectives, student learning objectives, from the TLE to be in line with this. And that would be immediate relief. Schools could stop jumping through all of those hoops. We would still gather data. All of these bills would say it would continue like the pilot now, 100% qualitative, continue to gather the test scores for data. Superintendent Hoffmeister has already been in touch with OU and OSU researchers to try to find some remedies for both of those things, though. Okay, so that's our top four at 4. Just so you know, the legislature will come in for about half a day tomorrow, and then generally at noon on Thursday go back to work in their districts. And so that means we essentially have 3 weeks of session down and 13 to go. It's going to fly by. It's going to continue to fly by. It has already. And so I just ask that you stay engaged and stay in touch with your legislators, please, because this is a real quick turnaround on all of it, and we need all the help we can get in making sure that these legislators know that that teachers and education professionals are watching what they're doing and expecting them to act in the best interest of public education. Look for our Friday email this week that will sum up in a little more detail and give some links to bills and that sort of thing, let you know what happened in the full week. And then also we have, in the last week, figured out how to put the webinars online. So tomorrow, I believe we should have this online, but definitely in your Friday email, we will explain how you can find these online so that if in the future you're not able to be on the call at 4 o'clock, you can check them out at your convenience. All right, that's it. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.